Hey everybody, it's Creechville again from Job That Inc. And I'm just gonna discuss something with you that's probably the biggest, and in all actuality, it's quite honestly, it's just false advertising. Period. There's no way other way to look around it. And I'm sure a lot of people have seen like, okay, so I'm not really gonna actually, I don't typically run cartridge needles on like normal tattoo machines. Like the only time I run cartridge needles is on the one pen that I have left. Um, but they do sell cartridge tubes, which are basically, something like this, and you have your little needle bar, push bar, whatever. So I bought this one. It costs about $10 or so. It's non-adjustable. And basically what okay, so here's the theory between the adjustable ones. This could say costs about $10. The adjustable ones, as they're advertised, a lot of companies out there advertising them and they'll say that you can adjust the stroke length by turning these little adjustable tubes, handles. Honestly, the only thing that adjusts, just like with tattoo pens, the only thing that adjusts is the needle protrusion, which is basically how far the needle sticks out of the end of the tube. So, and most of them that I've ever seen were like $30 plus. So, in all actuality, all you would have to do, and here I go again with my little, and I'm going to explain why those aren't really adjustable. So, here's my little 14 round beater needle tube. Basically, so if I have that, now granted that's non-adjustable, if I was to run cartridges in these, all I would have to do to make up, and granted it's going to save me 20 bucks right off the bat. All right, so here's another theory behind it, and some people might argue they probably do eliminate a little bit of cross-contamination, but in all actuality, all you have to do the same thing that those adjustable cartridge tubes do, is simply loosen your tube vise and move your tube back or forth, and that right there will adjust your needle protrusion. So you can literally save $20 per tube, just by simply loosening this and moving your tube back or forth. So yeah, if you guys like new guys out there, and there's a lot of companies that advertise things they're just false advertising. And so what I'm going to show you now, I have this. This is a Diablo Hybrid. This is actually a really good rotary machine. This is pretty modified, like the first models of these that came out. Again, were pre-installed 3.5 millimeters. So this is kind of like a custom bearing that I put on this, so I got the stroke length a little bit more. So if I have this, now granted this is like a 4.3 millimeter stroke length now. I use this as a shader only. So if I'm running this now, and my stroke length right there, you can see how far that's traveling back and forth. If I adjust that tube, if I twist that tube, since this is a non-adjustable stroke length, there's nothing that tube is going to do besides how far the needle is going to come out of the end of it. So if you guys are out there and you're thinking, because you're spending 30 something dollars on a tube that says it adjusts the stroke length, whether the company isn't aware that the stroke length and the needle protrusion are two completely different things, or whether it's just flat out false advertising, you're not going to really do anything on these. So again, this is like a preset. There's nothing I can do at this point except if I were to change, this bearing to a different bearing that would adjust the stroke length. Because the stroke length, again, is if you're watching the armature bar, like I always say, the part that the needle loops onto, how far that travels back and forth, that's your stroke length. And if you have a machine that you can't adjust the stroke length on back here, a little twisty grip that costs 30 something plus dollars isn't going to adjust your stroke length. So you can literally save a ton of money. Like I said, I got this cartridge tube, just, whatever. I've seen a lot of negative things about cartridges and how they like set themselves. Like basically when you have a one piece needle bar, when that needle's going back and forth, that's like how fast basically it's hitting your skin, as they call it, resetting itself. With cartridges, just because that armature bar is traveling that fast, doesn't mean that that cartridge is actually um, readjusting itself. So it's kind of like you're really better off, honestly, with like a one-piece needle bar. But again, I have this, it's a non-adjustable, again, it's a heavily modified Diablo Hybrid. Because when they first came out with these, they were pre-installed 3.5s, and I just, kind of made my own little custom bearing to get it as a shader. And I have, like this other one. This is a pre-installed 3.5 millimeter, and I'll use this as like the liner. This is like a little set, so I'll use this as the liner with that. And a lot of times companies will say, you can get away with lining and shading with a 3.5 millimeter. Granted, you can, but they don't really make a perfect either. And a lot of companies, when they sell rotaries, they'll say, lining and shading, you can do both. Yeah, you can, but I would definitely not get into any serious color packing with a 3.5 millimeter unless unless it was on like a really small tattoo that I could use something like a 14 round shader. They had a real tight needle configuration, but like anything over like a 7 mag, I definitely would go more with like a coil machine or something that I could get over 4 millimeters or over. Um, Now this is like a direct drive rotary machine here. Now there's some direct drive, and they call these cams generally. It's still technically the armature bar. Some direct drive machines have non-adjustable cams. This particular one does, and you can maybe see, but there's numbers on top of this basically, and what you do is kind of, let me see, just loosen that little top screw right there, and you can take your little Allen key and adjust this on whatever millimeter stroke length you want it, and it goes from like 1 to 4.5. So this is how you adjust the stroke length. So I can adjust the stroke length simply here, use that tube, whatever, and that's actually adjusting the stroke length. If I had a twisty grip and this part wasn't adjustable, the only stroke length I'm going to get out of it is the stroke length that this cam would allow. I have another direct drive. It's like actually an older one that I made myself. And it's like a 3 millimeter cam on it, so I kind of use that as as the pair with this. Like that's my liner I'll use with this, and I have this set on 4 millimeters. So this is like the shader that I would use with it. But again, one of the biggest, and it's flat out, no other way around it, is false advertising. These little twisty grips that they use for cartridges, that they say they adjust the stroke length, all you're really doing, you can save yourself a lot of money, is simply just loosen this screw, because that's basically all it's doing. The same with pens. When you turn the head of a pen, that adjusts the needle protrusion, not the stroke length, as I was talking about that $700 junk pen that I bought. And even when those came out, they were saying adjust on the fly, adjust the stroke length on the fly. Those particular pens, as most, have pre-installed 3.5 millimeter stroke length. So the only stroke length you're going to get out of those is 3.5 millimeters. You can twist the head of that, adjust on the fly, as they say, and it's going to adjust the needle protrusion, which again is just how far the needle sticks out. And, it's just basically like taking this tube, I mean, in all honesty, if you're that worried about, like, the cross-contamination, either, like, bunch up a paper towel if you have to, say if you're, well, in all honesty, you shouldn't really, I mean, I can't see why you would really want to adjust the stroke length if you're using, like, a liner needle or a shader needle. So, like, if I was using, like, a cartridge pen, I would take off my gloves, put a new cartridge in it, and then I would do all the adjustments from there. If I were to use, say, this 3.5 millimeter stroke length rotary as both, of course, I would take my gloves off. I'd put a new tube in between lining and shading with a new needle. And then, just set your tube the needle depth how you want it there. Or if, say, you wanted to, quote unquote, adjust on the fly, either like really bunch up a bunch of paper towels, loosen that up, ensuring that your gloves, your contaminated gloves, don't, you don't really want to get them on the machine itself. Or just take your glove off and then twist the tube, either pull it in or pull it out, and it's basically, you can save yourself a ton of money. And another thing is with grips and stuff like that, anything that like twists and turns and stuff, you're kind of eventually gonna have problems with it. Like these single one piece, once again, it's a cartridge tube. This was like $10. And again, well, this particular one, even most of the adjustable ones, you do have to sterilize these. And when I say sterilize, I don't mean dunk them in bleach or alcohol or whatever. I mean, you have to properly sterilize these, like autoclave them afterwards. So, that's not a disposable tube. But again, I thought maybe I would kind of like to try using cartridges with my normal machines, and it didn't really turn out as good as I really want. So I think I used that one time. But again, this cost $10. If I were gonna get the adjustable version, the twisty adjustable version of that, it would have been like $27, I think. So I literally saved $17 just by simply, if I want to just do the same thing that twist grip did, I would simply just, move my tube back or forth, because that's literally all those twisty grips are doing. So don't be fooled by a lot of advertisement that some of these companies are out with, saying that you can adjust the stroke length by simply twisting the head of a grip, as in with pens too. And I'll show you. I have this one pen that does have an adjustable stroke length, and I'll kind of get into that in maybe my next video. But so whether it's that tube that I put on one of these machines, or if I had a twisty grip, the only thing twisting that grip is going to do is adjust how far that needle sticks out the end of the tube. It's not going to affect my stroke length, which is all back here. So guys, just, new tattoo artists out there, just be wary of some of the advertisement out there, like mixing white. There's a lot of things out there that really, I mean, I've been using Starbright tattoo inks for the last 24 years pretty much. I did switch up to a different company that was a wonderful ink company, but I ended up going back to Starbright. They have bright white in their whole set, and I mean, I've been using that particular white to mix all my tattoo inks for ever. So there's a lot of companies out there that have ink sets. There's one good company out there now. They have excellent tattoo ink, but they advertise that they have 900 and something colors in their complete set. I have like 35 colors in my entire ink set, and I've done basically every kind of style tattoo with it imaginable. You don't need anything more than 34 colors, a light, medium, and dark shade of any color. It's basically all I need. And even in those 900 plus color sets, if you were to put two of the same blues or the same red side by side in a tattoo, you wouldn't even be able to tell the difference between the colors. So a lot of them are just, relabeling the same color red, the same shade of red, or whatever the shade may be, just quite frankly to make more money off people that don't really know better. So be wary, guys, new tattooists. If you really don't know any better and you see things like these little twisty grips that claim they adjust the stroke length, they don't. It's a flat out, it's just false advertisement. I've seen a lot of companies that were advertising it kind of in the beginning when that was like the big fad, and now they're starting to flat out say they adjust the needle protrusion. So and quite frankly, all these companies really have to say is they didn't know the difference either, between the stroke length and the needle protrusion or whatever. There, right there, how far that needle travels back and forth is your stroke length. And again, this is a Diablo Hybrid, and it is custom. The company that actually made these, I don't know if they just relocated or what, but and again, this tattoo machine right here I have, it was like from 2014. It's probably the first good rotary I bought, and I have this on 5.5 volts pushing a 14 round shader. It's flying, a little bit of oil on that bearing. I tighten up everything. I'll even put a little bit of a drop of oil on that needle bar tensioner, and and just a couple little drops of machine oil, and it'll really keep your machines running. I mean, that's like almost perfectly quiet. So and it'll definitely make them run stronger. It'll prevent wear and tear on the parts, keep them running nice and smooth for like a long period of time to come. So, keep that in mind, guys, and, don't be fooled by some of the advertising ploys that some of these companies out there are trying to, pull off, because, like, again, it's not how far that needle sticks out of the end of the tube, your stroke length, whether they call it the hit, whether it's the throw, whatever it is, it's basically all the same thing. It's your stroke length is all back here, and that's how far that needle is traveling back and forth. Now, say like I always talk about in all my videos as far as setting tattoo machines, if I were to look at that and hold a nickel at when that's running, I can perfectly see it. For some reason, I can't quite ever get it in these videos. Well, that's almost kind of close, but basically, if I were to hold a nickel there, I could see like a space, and that space would be over a nickel width, because a nickel is generally about 4 millimeters, so that's kind of what you're looking for a shader. This is a little higher because, again, it's a 4.3, kind of like this is just a little modified Diablo Hybrid. So yeah. Anyway, guys, don't be fooled by all the hype out there when it comes to some of these tattoo companies. You can save yourself a lot of money. Again, with twisty grips, anything that moves, the more it moves, the more you got to mess with it. You're kind of almost asking for trouble when it comes to grips and stuff like that. So save yourself a bunch of money. Just get, spend $10 on one, and take 2 seconds to loosen that screw. Take your glove off if it's an issue, and just loosen this, pull your tube back and forth, and you're doing the exact same thing as those quote-unquote twisty grips are doing, which is basically, like I say, simply adjusting the needle protrusion, not the stroke length. Don't be fooled by the hype, you guys. All right? Thinking. See ya.